Right now, wherever you are sitting, you are standing inside an invisible shape. A line runs across the ground somewhere near you, and that line decides what language is on your money, which army protects you, which passport you carry, and whether the person born on the other side of it is called a foreigner. You cannot see this line. You cannot touch it. If you dug down into the earth, you would never find it. And yet people have killed and died by the millions to move it just a few miles one way or the other. We call these shapes countries, and there are about 195 of them covering nearly every inch of dry land on the planet. They feel permanent, natural, as old as the mountains and the rivers. But here is the strange truth. Countries are not natural at all. They are an invention, one of the newest and most powerful things humans have ever created. So how did we do it? How did a species of wandering apes end up slicing the entire earth into invisible boxes and agreeing, almost all of us, to believe in them? The answer is far stranger and far more recent than you think. Start at the beginning, because for almost all of human history, there were no countries at all. For roughly 300,000 years, humans lived in small bands, following food across an open world. There were no borders, no flags, no passports, no such thing as a foreigner. A person could, in theory, walk from the plains of Africa all the way to the far edge of Asia and never once cross a line, never show a document, never be stopped and asked which nation they belonged to. The land was just the land. It belonged to no one, because the very idea of a place belonging to anyone had not been invented yet. Hold on to that, because it means every border on Earth today is younger than our species by hundreds of thousands of years. Countries are not our natural state. They are something we built. So what changed? The first crack appeared about 12,000 years ago with a single quiet revolution: farming. When humans learned to plant seeds and raise animals, they had to do something they had never done before. They had to stay. You cannot wander off and leave a field of wheat you spent all season growing. For the first time, a patch of ground was worth staying on, worth defending, worth saying the most dangerous 3 words in human history about. This is mine. That idea, that a piece of the earth could belong to a person or a group, is the seed from which every country would eventually grow. From there, it snowballed fast. Farms fed more people clustered together, and the world's first cities rose out of the mud. Places like Uruk in ancient Sumer, more than 5,000 years ago. And these cities did something telling. They built walls. A wall around a city is more than protection. It is a statement written in stone. It says everything inside here is us, and everything out there is not. That wall was, in a very real sense, the first border. But a wall creates a new problem. Once you have thousands of people, fields, animals, and stored grain all in one place, somebody has to keep track of it all. Who owns which field? Who paid their share? Who owes what to the temple? And so humans invented another world-changing tool, not to write poetry or love letters, but to do accounting. Writing, the earliest written records we have are not stories. They are receipts, lists of grain, taxes, and debts. The state was born the moment humans started keeping paperwork, and it has never stopped since. Now the shapes on the map start getting bigger. Ambitious rulers conquered their neighbors and stitched cities together into kingdoms, and kingdoms into sprawling empires like Egypt, Persia, and Rome. But here is a crucial twist that surprises almost everyone. These giant empires were not really countries the way we mean it today. Their edges were not sharp lines on a map. They were fuzzy frontiers, wild zones that slowly faded from more control to less. And more importantly, people did not feel loyal to a country. They felt loyal to a king, or an emperor, or a god. If you asked a peasant what nation they belonged to, the question would have made no sense to them. They belonged to their village, their lord, their faith. The idea of being a citizen of a bordered nation equal to a stranger 1,000 miles away simply because you shared the same lines on a map still did not exist. So when did that idea finally arrive? For the single biggest turning point, many historians point to Europe in the year 1648 and a set of agreements called the Peace of Westphalia. Europe had just torn itself apart in decades of horrific religious war. Exhausted and bled dry, the rulers sat down and agreed on a radical new principle. Each state would have supreme and final authority inside its own borders. No outside king, no distant pope, no foreign power had the right to reach across that line and tell it what to do. This idea has a name: sovereignty, and it is the invisible engine underneath every country that exists today. But an idea is not a line on the ground, and this is where maps enter the story and change everything. As map-making grew precise, those old fuzzy frontiers were hardened into exact, unforgiving lines. And with a pen and a ruler, borders could now be invented out of thin air by people who had never even seen the land. The most brutal example came when European empires sat around tables and carved up entire continents like Africa, drawing dead straight lines across deserts and jungles and rivers, splitting peoples apart and forcing enemies together, all without asking a single person who actually lived there. Many of the borders that spark wars today were drawn this way, by strangers with a ruler, on a map of a place they did not understand. Then came the final ingredient, the one that made countries feel personal. Nationalism. In the last 2 centuries, a powerful new story took hold. The idea that a people, a nation with a shared language and history, deserved to have their own state. This is where the emotional machinery arrived. Flags, anthems, national holidays, the feeling of pride or tears when a team wins or a border is threatened, and with it came the paperwork of belonging. The passport, that little book that decides where on earth your body is allowed to go, is shockingly new. The standardized passport we use today is barely 100 years old, hammered into place only after the First World War. The lines you were born inside of, the identity stamped into your documents, are younger than your great-grandparents. Picture the whole thing from above, a single species spreading across a borderless planet for hundreds of thousands of years. Then, in just the last few thousand, a blink of an eye in human time, it plants fields, builds walls, invents writing to count its grain, dreams up sovereignty, hardens the world into lines with maps, and finally teaches its children to love those lines enough to die for them. No country was ever discovered lying in nature, waiting to be found. Every single one was imagined first, then agreed upon, then defended. A border is only real because millions of people, at the exact same moment, have quietly agreed to pretend that it is. And that is the almost unbelievable truth at the heart of it. A country is not a thing made of earth or stone. It is a story so powerful that we built armies and walls and governments to protect it, so convincing that we forgot we ever made it up. The invisible line near you right now has no physical existence whatsoever, and yet it shapes nearly everything about your life, because you and millions of strangers you will never meet all believe in it together. Humans did not just invent countries. We invented one of the most powerful shared dreams in history. And then we drew it across the entire face of the earth. And the fact that it feels completely normal to you, the fact that you never even think to question the invisible shape you live inside, is the surest proof of just how well the invention worked.